Believe it or not, there's actually another Spanish club that is currently surprising everyone. It's not necessarily to the extent of Real Betis' current season, but it is still a pretty impressive run. When I first heard about Rayo Vallecano all those years back in 2015, yeah, that is quite long ago. Oh my god, I'm old. By the way, if we can get 3.6k likes on this video, that would be absolutely fantastic. El Rayo Sports Group was founded on May 29, 1924 at the home of Julian Huerta Priego's wife, Prudencia Priego. The team's original uniform was a white shirt, white pants, and black socks. However, after some reorganization of the club and also an appointment of a new president in 1940, a meeting was held on November 13, 1947, which would change the club's name to Agrupación Deportiva Rayo Vallecano. A couple years later, Rayo signed a mutual aid agreement with Atletico Madrid. Atleti would give Los Vallecanos some of their players, and in turn, Rayo would stop wearing full white like Atleti's rivals, Real. Thus, the famous red sash was born. Los Vallecanos spent most of its early days in the regional leagues until 1949, when they were promoted to the Spanish 3rd Division. After almost an entire decade, Rayo then earned promotion to the 2nd Division. In their second season in the Segunda División, Rayo started to host their home games at the famous Campo de Fútbol de Vallecas in 1957. This was originally Atletico Madrid's home. Rayo played their fixtures at the stadium until 1972, when it was closed due to dangerous conditions. Los Franjirosos were relocated to the Valle Hermoso Stadium. Rayo's time at Valle Hermoso was quite the struggle. Old fans found it pretty difficult to get to the stadium as it was now 11 kilometers away from the original location, and also this stadium was primarily for javelin and hammer throws. Not really ideal for football. After multiple worker strikes due to low wage, a new stadium built upon the ruins of the old Campo de Vallecas was finished in 1976. The Estadio de Vallecas has been used ever since and has also hosted concerts for Metallica and Queen. Just 2 years after returning to their original location, Los Franjirosos, without losing a single game at their new ground, promoted to the Spanish 1st Division. During their first campaign in 1977-78, Rayo Vallecano was nicknamed Mata Gigantes. This was Spanish for giant slayers, and rightfully so. They were incredible at home. They defeated giants like Sevilla 4-1, Athletic Bilbao 3-2, Atletico Madrid 2-0, Barcelona 2-1, and by far their biggest feat, a 3-2 win against Real Madrid. Rayo at the end of the 1977-78 season had lost just once at home. In 1980, Rayo recorded their best run in the Copa del Rey to date when they made it to the quarterfinals. However, they were relegated that same year. During their time in the 2nd Division though, Rayo made it all the way to the semis of the Copa del Rey in 1982. Unfortunately, a year later, they finished dead last and were in the 3rd Division for a short period. The Spanish club were back into the 1st Division in 1989, only to finish dead last yet again. To make things worse, going into the 1990s, Rayo Vallecano were struggling quite a bit financially. In 1991, however, businessman Jose Maria Ruiz Mateos bought most of the shares in the club and became president. Now, if you thought Manuel Ruiz de Lopera was a little bonkers, oh my God, this guy was insane. Jose Ruiz Mateos founded Rumasa, a holding company, which is basically when a business owns a bunch of shares in other companies and creates a corporate group. Ruiz Mateo's business thrived, and that was because of the light regulation during that era. Oftentimes, he'd be able to fend off inspections from the Bank of Spain, and he could easily pull off some Messis and Ronaldos here or there. In the 1980s, this shady businessman was one of the richest men in Spain, and believed Rumasa was too big to be allowed to fail. Unfortunately, Ruiz Mateos forgot to realize Spain had a socialist government at the time. His business was seized to a halt, and the short-term cost of that was over 1.2 billion euros. In order to avoid imprisonment, Ruiz Mateos fled to London, then Frankfurt, only to be sent back to Spain to be detained. And so a couple legal changes, punches, and the creation of a political party later, he bought Rayo Vallecano in 1991. In 1994, after Ruiz Mateo's wife was appointed chair, the club was renamed Rayo Vallecano de Madrid. The first decade of the Ruiz Mateo era basically saw Rayo Vallecano yo-yo back and forth between the 1st and 2nd Division. In 2001, they were able to experience some success in Europe, reaching the quarterfinals in the UEFA Cup, the modern-day Europa League. Unfortunately, after this, times got tough. 2 consecutive relegations sent Rayo all the way down to the 3rd Division. They returned back to the 2nd Division in 2008, only to be greeted by more of Jose's aides. To take advantage of the Euro credit boom, he recreated Rumasa. It was now Nueva Rumasa. New Rumasa. However, the 2008 housing crisis exposed his business, and he later revealed Nueva Rumasa was on the verge of bankruptcy in 2011. The supporters club, as a result, created Filacero in order to help pay club employees, players, and youth squad members. Countless protests later, and the Ruiz Mateos family finally sold the club. Led by Jose Sandoval, Rayo promoted to La Liga in 2011, despite the players being unpaid for several months. Into the summer before their new La Liga campaign, however, new president Martin Presa announced the club's entry into bankruptcy law. To make things far worse, during the 2011-12 campaign, manager Jose Sandoval was being sued due to claims from Presa that his salary bonus was invalid, despite the fact that Sandoval had met his targets to earn the bonus in the first place. Sandoval had also already agreed to a 40% pay cut at the time due to the club's financial troubles. In the following season, Los Vallecanos qualified for the Europa League, but because of their bankruptcy proceedings, they could not participate. Los Franjirojos would experience another 3 years in La Liga until relegating in 2016. They again reappeared in the first division for a brief period in 2018, only to finish dead last. Now fast forward 2 years later. Rayo Vallecano in their 2020-21 campaign were dangling in and out of the last promotion playoff spot. They almost missed out completely after a loss on matchday 37 when they dropped to 7th. However, Rayo then went unbeaten in their next 4 matches. Los Vallecanos lost their last fixture against Lugo on the last day, but luckily for them, 7th place Sporting Gijón lost to Almeria, meaning Rayo just barely claimed the last promotion playoff spot. Being in the 6th seed, it was very unlikely to see Rayo go far. However, Los Vallecanos defeated highest seed Leganes 5-1 on aggregate, sending them to the final with the chance to win promotion. After losing the first leg 2-1 at home to Girona, Rayo responded with a 2-0 rally in Girona's backyard to win the tie 3-2 on aggregate. They were now back in the top division after a 2-year absence. Rayo has impressed so far this season in La Liga. After 18 matches, Los Vallecanos were in 4th. You heard that right. 4th. Scenes of 1977-78 occurred when they beat Barcelona 1-0 at home. Unfortunately, since their incredible run, their form has kind of fizzled out. They've gone winless in their last 6 matches, dropping them all the way to 12th. But their main goal was just to survive, and currently they are 10 points above danger. Rayo also made it to the semis of the Copa del Rey this season. They lost the first leg to Betis, but there's still hope of a cup final appearance going into the second leg. Under new manager Adoni Iraola, who was appointed back in 2020, Rayo's playstyle is high risk, high reward. Very direct attacks and aggressive and immediate defending. Chaos Ball. Los Franjirojos' top performer is Oscar Trejo, a midfielder with 3 goals and 9 assists to his name so far. Alvaro Garcia, a huge figure in Rayo's promotion success the year prior, has 5 goals and 2 assists. But what's Rayo Vallecano without talking about the culture? The club is based in Vallecas, a large neighborhood based in Madrid. It's experienced complete negligence from the Spanish government for decades, and as a result, a lot of those based in the working class immigrant neighborhood are pretty left-leaning in their politics. The Bucaneros are Rayo's most radical and vocal ultras group. They stand against fascism, racism, and are anti-establishment, which is pretty much the polar opposites of Real and Atleti's fan bases. Rayo Vallecano is basically the hub to bring any and all from the barrio together. Oftentimes, players will get involved with charity and even activism, as shown before in the 2011-2012 Spanish protests. In 2014, Carmen Martinez Ayuso, an 85-year-old Vallecas resident, was evicted from her home after living there since the 60s. Rayo manager at the time, Paco Gemes, decided to help out the old lady after being touched by her story. Now, with this all being said, while Rayo Vallecano are doing pretty well in the league right now, Rayo is still a bit of a shit show. The men's team is doing okay, but the women's team have not been paid their wages for several months. And speaking of women's rights, President Martin Presa decided to back Rayo Vallecano's women's coach, who made a game remark. Presa also once invited a far-right politician to a game. Rayo supporters, who are anti-racist, anti-fascist, anti-establishment, pro-LGBTQ+, and pro-women's rights, definitely were not very happy about this. There was also the time when Presa signed striker Roman Zosulia. Fans were very angry because Zosulia is an alleged neo-Nazi. A day later, after protests, Roman decided to cancel his contract and go back to his parent club Real Betis. But the story doesn't exactly end there. During a match between Rayo Vallecano and Albacete, now Albacete striker Roman Zosulia was met with chants of "Zosulia, you are a Nazi" from Rayo fans. Presa condemned the chants towards the Ukrainian striker and gave him a hug because he is a human being and he deserves respect. This man ain't human. Rayo Vallecano's history is one where there seems to be at least one gleaming flaw despite however much success the club achieves. Yo, come on, man, I can't have shit in this house! One thing's for certain though, Martin Presa. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. I know some of you guys wanted the Rayo Vallecano video, so here it is. But of course, a massive shout out to our patrons, Janos Balas, Alex Rod, Daniel Ortiz, Philip Hellman, Joseph Bonfante, Windin Mintang, The Motor Drive, Victor, Dominic Griffin, Emmett Shea, Lewis, Joe Gallagher, Tomicus, Andres Was Never Here, Big Bird, Cash Getty, Exo, Itachi the Homie, James Huggett, Casa, Mark Morcos, and Nathan Trong. If you'd like to join the Patreon, there'll be a link down below and up in the annotations. You can follow my Twitter if you'd like, follow my Instagram if you want, follow my TikTok, trying to get to 6,000 there, and of course you can follow my inactive Twitch. But until then, I'll see you guys.